Story 1. Being constantly ignored, treated with little respect, spending a lot of money on dating, and having to look my best always seems like a lot of time, energy, and resources for little payoff. Story 2. People can be overly interested in their desires. They may flatter someone to achieve their goals, only to disregard them afterward. Additionally, some individuals can be disappointing. Story 3. Someone sent me an unsolicited, inappropriate picture with the caption "cleaned and ready to be licked." That was the last straw for me. Story 4. I realize that I deserve someone who appreciates and respects me for who I am, and I won't settle for less. Story 5. Men often seem to only want sex from me. I notice that other women have better luck, but I have yet to meet a man who isn't overly eager in his pursuit. Story 6. I found happiness within myself and in life. Growing up in a society and environment that often pressured me to date and have romantic relationships made me feel that it was something I had to do to be considered normal, even if it meant being unhappy. Eventually, I discovered what is truly important to me. I genuinely enjoy life by myself, and if someone comes into my life later, that's okay. I haven't given up on dating. It's simply not my main focus or priority. Story 7. Everyone out here is just trying to connect, while I am out here trying to find love. I realized that I was born in the wrong generation, so I decided to give up. Story 8. As an average guy, it seems like you have to put in so much effort to get at least a chance for one date. Additionally, it would take a miracle for me to give up the peace I found in my solitude. Story 9. Many people are struggling. I am not a builder. My peace is important. Improve it or leave. Story 10. The dating apps. I live in a small city and feel like everyone here is polyamorous or non-monogamous. The last person I was with pretty much broke me. Why should I give up my peace and quiet for another man in his mid-30s who is still figuring out his dating style? It's boring. Story 11. I haven't given up. I've just lowered my standards significantly. At least I'm getting results now. Story 12. Married men and people in relationships flirting with me make it hard for me to trust them. If I find someone, that's great, but I'm content with being alone. Story 13. I am expected to approach men, have relationships, cook their food, clean their house, and manage all the emotional labor because he has the mental capacity of a carrot. I am also expected to have children and raise them by myself so he can play the role of a father for a short time, while paying half the rent because he does not make enough money if he is mentally stable. But when I express that I am tired of this situation, I am told, "You have it easy. I have been single for 2 years, and it has been better than the previous 9 years of relationships I have had. I come home to everything in its place. I am not returning to an empty fridge and going to bed hungry because he did not think to save me food. I am no longer coming home anxious. It has been easier to be single, to be honest." Story 14. I spent most of my life observing people in relationships, obsessing over having one of my own, but never having a meaningful one. I only had 2 one-night stands, and they were unsatisfactory. Then, after I turned 30, I lost any desire to be in a relationship. I don't want the drama or the issues that come with it. I've grown to enjoy my peace and not worry about whether someone likes me or not. Nor do I have to hide the peculiar aspects of my personality. I must say, I am much happier alone. Story 15. I just broke up with someone this weekend with whom I was more myself than I have ever been, and I think she felt the same. I was honest and loving, doing everything I could to support her since she had been hurt in previous relationships. I could sense when she felt guarded, but I knew she was genuinely scared. She seemed deeply afraid of being abandoned, worried that I would somehow realize she wasn't enough. I have never loved or felt more connected to anyone in my life. I let her in and allowed her to know me better than I have ever let anyone else. Turns out I got hurt. She wasn't honest, which was painful. But what hurt even more was her unwillingness to acknowledge her mistakes despite knowing she was in the wrong. It makes you feel like you didn't matter. Before this, I was in a relationship for 6 years with someone who cheated on me. That also made me feel insignificant, as if they only loved me when I was present. So pain, deep, horrible pain is the reason. Story 16. This all happened last year. The first guy I went out on a date with was okay. He wasn't the worst date, but he also wasn't the best. He wouldn't talk about himself, though. I saw his last name when he paid for the date, and when I got home, I looked him up. It turns out he had just been released from prison after serving 19 years for murder. A few months later, I tried dating again, and with this guy, I had a great first date. He had just moved to the area and didn't know anyone. We had a second date a few days later, and then he disappeared. No big deal, it happens. 3 days after I was ghosted, his mother called me from another state and said he had been arrested for driving under the influence and was in jail. She wanted to know if I would pick him up. Absolutely not. I tried dating one more time. I met someone organically and we hit it off. Everything was great, or so I thought, for about 3 months. We took a weekend trip, and 2 days after we got back, he called to tell me his ex-wife had cancer and that he was going to marry her so she could get back on his health insurance. He said I could still date him. No, thank you. I'm done. No more dating for me. Story 17. I haven't given up, but I'm also not trying. I am a woman in my 50s, in great shape and health. I am well established and child-free, and I am not interested in taking care of someone. The men I meet often have multiple children from different women, which makes them not my equal. They tend to have poor housing, finances, and limited time to dedicate to a relationship. Additionally, I find beards, excessive tattoos, and beer guts unappealing. Story 18. Spending a significant amount of time alone working on my problems. Then waking up one day with no problems and realizing that most of my issues arise from interacting with other people or choosing to take on their burdens. I only date individuals who enhance my life and do not require me to adopt a multitude of problems I did not create. I date occasionally, but I quickly become dissatisfied when others expect me to solve the problems they created. Why would I invite someone into my life permanently if all they will do is create problems where I have none? I am much more satisfied with my life now that I don't have to constantly worry if someone else has addressed their responsibilities or if their matters are in disarray. Instead of playing games, I can focus on whatever I want to do with no conflicts, no drama, no issues, just me being productive and nurturing on a daily basis and choosing to be kind to myself without having to argue with someone to be kind as well. I am busy creating a life that is lovely to be in, a life I can share with the right person if I ever meet them. However, I choose not to share my life with those who will be disruptive for any reason. I do not allow myself excuses to disrupt my life, and I don't allow others to do so either. I am single and happy, creating a beautiful life, and I'm open to sharing it only with someone who understands my perspective. I have had too many conflicts in my life to want to be involved with someone I have to convince to behave again. If they want to be aggressive and not engage in conversations like adults, I will swiftly remove them from my life. I have no patience for childish behavior and do not want to waste my time and energy on anyone undeserving. Story 19. I am 31 years old and I gave up on dating for 2 reasons. First, the men I have met are not emotionally intelligent. Second, the one I dated turned out to be married. I am over it. Additionally, I am tired of being treated like a servant, expected to pick up after them and cook for them simply because I am a woman. Story 20. I haven't given up completely, but even when I was in a relationship, I realized I would be stuck alone or with people who have their lives even less together than I do unless I figure my own issues out. I need to improve my relationship with myself and build confidence by focusing on my own problems and improving my own life without people who drain me or distract me. Right now, anyone who can look past my issues to try and date me is a red flag. I can't pretend to be someone I'm not because the energy that goes into faking it would be better used on making real improvements. I'm finally eating well and exercising regularly, though. I wish I could thrive on self-love, but for some reason, I only make efforts and improvements when I decide my current condition is no longer acceptable. I don't want anyone who accepts me as I am at the moment. Even if they were very attractive, they would have an uphill battle convincing me that I'm genuinely their type. Story 21. Those apps are frustrating. Apparently, that's how you meet people now, but they are basically just sources of electronic depression. Story 22. I think I am 42 now. I have only had 2 relationships, neither of which worked out. If it hasn't happened by now, it is not going to happen. Story 23. My ex destroyed my view on dating. Things ended extremely badly. Even though I technically dated someone after him, I felt like I couldn't let my guard down. I never want to be betrayed that deeply again. It wasn't just the blatant disrespect, manipulation, and abuse. It was the fact that when I was at my most vulnerable, financially reliant with our newborn, he made me feel very unsafe. 3 years later, I still have post-traumatic stress disorder. I am so ashamed that it still affects me so deeply. I can't let my guard down, and I don't want to drag anyone else down with me when my mental health declines for 3 to 4 months at a time. I dated a really great guy for about 5 months, and then that time of year rolled around and I crumbled. Story 24. Many young people are not dating or having sex anymore. They would rather stay at home playing video games or talking to people online, and I can't blame them. Dating is challenging. It is expensive and exhausting trying to find someone with whom you can connect. As for men, I am 42 and currently separated, but I know many single men. They all express the same sentiment. They are tired of putting in so much effort and receiving nothing in return. I also believe that hookup apps have really disrupted traditional dating. Sex should be passionate and represent a deep connection between two people. Now, with the ability to get what they want with just a swipe of a finger, some people find it almost not worth the effort. Story 25. My dog's death changed everything. I no longer cared about men unless they could love me as much as my dog did. He showed me what real love is. Story 26. I don't like the role I have to play as a man in dating. Constantly having to be the one to make the first move, keep the conversation going, move things forward, initiate texting, push for conversation topics, plan the date, and prove that I am not dangerous while being assertive enough to indicate interest is draining. After 2 years of constantly sending messages catered to profiles and having nothing to show for it, I realized that just looking at women's profiles made me frustrated because I already knew they would ignore messages or be difficult to talk to. So I deleted everything. Dating in real life isn't any better because all of the same problems still exist, and I still have to play the male role. This dynamic makes me feel unattractive and uncomfortable. Story 27. Recently divorced and after 13 years out of the dating scene, I find it very hard to meet committed, decent men. I have tried 2 dating apps and encountered men who want to exchange contacts immediately and hook up. There seems to be no long-term intention, even though my profile clearly states that. They don't even want to get to know me, just coffee later. I was communicating with one man for 2 months and thought I had finally found someone worth my time. I dropped all my other matches and focused on him, only to discover that he had been sharing the same things with others on the app. This was after he assured me, without me asking, that his sole focus was on me and that I had his heart. I was ready to exchange contact information with this guy. At this point, I am thinking I may never get the chance to meet someone if they can't even slow down to connect meaningfully. Story 28. After a 17-year marriage, I had been out of the dating scene, and it no longer made any sense to me. I tried Tinder for a while but decided to opt out. Story 29. Married women approach me on nights out with lines like, "We're more fun this way," and "He doesn't need to know." They say, "My husband is boring and thinks I'm staying at a friend's." Imagine being at home, unaware of this happening. Story 30. I have learned to love myself. I haven't really desired to date in a couple of years. I'm just happy doing my own thing. I miss intimacy and sex, though. I guess I figured I would rather spend my time on Earth with the people I love, like my family, rather than running around trying to find someone on dating apps. I still hope to run into someone who understands me in real life, but I have yet to meet a soul who truly sees me. I feel like I have an immense amount of love that I want to direct toward a singular person. An intensity of love and passion, when met with another of equal fervor, will create something extraordinary, like a new universe just for us. I'll have it all or I'll have nothing. Otherwise, I'm happy alone, and my life will be lovely without it. Story 31. I feel like today's dating scene is disappointing. Nobody wants to create a genuine connection as it seems like too much work. Instead, they are completely fine going through the motions. They would rather get drunk, hang out, have sex, and play games with each other than actually sit around and talk. Half of the people I meet are either addicted to gadgets such as phones and video game consoles or, in simpler terms, are insincere. Nobody wants to open up, listen, or care, but they happily chase happiness through social media, jealous competitions with friends, and materialism. The entire dating pool is based on temporary happiness and the addiction to serotonin through casual encounters, drinking, drugs, and social media personas. Unfortunately, people seem to lack distinct personalities. They don't have hobbies, social skills, or the etiquette that I desire. Maybe I was born a few decades late, but I don't think asking for someone responsible, loyal, communicative, trustworthy, and possessing basic behavioral skills is too much when I am willing to offer the same. Story 32. It's not that I don't want a girlfriend, or that I'm shy or angry at women. I just think I'm trapped in this antisocial situation that I willingly created, and it's a vicious cycle. I want friends, a girlfriend, and a social life, but I realize that I dislike people and enjoy being antisocial too much, which brings me back to the beginning. Story 33. Over 8 years, it doesn't matter who. Plans are made, but you don't show up. For days later, you realize that you need an excuse. Thinking of the excuse takes longer than just sending a message that you can't make it. I started showing up about 3 months ago and waited for about half an hour. Then I would sit in the waiting area for 10 minutes before heading down to the parking lot, leaving shortly after the scheduled meeting time. Eventually, I didn't even bother. I knew it was a lie the moment you said you would show up. You still apologized and offered weak excuses, even though I wasn't there either. Occasionally, I forget and deal with those unpleasant feelings again. Story 34. First, my boyfriend broke up with me because I wasn't ready. Now I can't trust any men. It's been like this for 7 years. I need to make a change. Story 35. 25 men have told me I'm a nice guy, that I treat them well, and that I make them feel special, only for them to place me in the friend zone and choose the guy who treats them like they are an object. It has left me uninterested. Unless a woman shows genuine interest and asks me out or makes it very clear she wants something romantic with me, I'm done for now. Story 36. Actually realizing that it's a waste of time for someone my age. Most people under 23 don't bother dating. Figure out your life first before wanting to bring someone into it. Story 37. 12 years of activity with probably over 100 different women. I have never made it past the second date. Story 38. Partly because I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, I realized it had negatively impacted many of my previous relationships. Story 39. I haven't given up yet, as I'm just about to get back into the dating game. I am a 39-year-old man, and I've been separated for 3 months. Looking at what I see out there, reading what is available to me, and just thinking about it, dating seems miserable these days. Story 40. I have socially liberal interests like anime and comic conventions, but I am Christian and conservative, and those two environments clash. It is unfortunate because I know I would have a better chance of dating if I chose a side. Story 41. There are many options, but few people are willing to be vulnerable, communicate, and work together toward a meaningful life. Story 42. 2 girlfriends treated me poorly, and I had numerous dates with unusual individuals struggling with mental health issues. Some women can be very unkind. I am too sensitive and emotional for that. Story 43. Being left unread, receiving short and dry responses after I sent multiple messages, makes me feel inadequate in dating. Story 44. I am not interested in forming any lasting, genuine connections. I am much more suited for casual, non-committed sexual relationships. Story 45. Lack of female empathy. I was on and off with a woman in college for a year and a half. In a group conversation, the topic of men lying arose, and I stated that I had never lied to her. This statement shook her. Integrity seemed invisible to her. Many women live in their emotions to the extent that they struggle to understand matters of principle. This is disqualifying. Additionally, there are numerous double standards present. Story 46. After 10 years of putting myself out there, I have only known rejection. A normal person can only endure consistent rejection for so long. Eventually, you realize you do not have what women want and decide to give up. Story 47. I'm scared of women now. I think they're all secretly crazy. Men are statistically worse for sure. However, I believe that a mature outlook on life reveals that difficult women ruin families and households. Even absent father homes create children who can sustain some type of life. Troubled women not only ruin your life but also the lives of your children. Imagine marrying someone and realizing the person you're having a baby with is mentally absent and was hiding that for months. Her family was helping her conceal it from you. What do? Divorce, of course. Then you lose the child and must spend the rest of your life navigating custody issues with someone who ties her entire emotional life to extorting you for various reasons. Your child grows older and becomes a casualty. They will never mature because they lacked the guidance of a loving or nurturing home. They are not even aware of how mentally affected they are and how deeply traumatized they have become. They are too far gone to see or admit that their mother is troubled and has impacted their life. You might think I'm trauma dumping here, but I'm not. This isn't reflective of my experience at all. However, if you understand what I'm saying, you'll start to see it. It's everywhere. We all know people like those I described. It just so happens that many women are mentally absent like that. They have no idea where they are and will drain your energy away. I am terrified at 30 years old. I believe many women are walking around mentally disconnected, yet so many people do not see it. Story 48. I haven't given up, but it's not something I'm actively looking for or expecting to happen. I have a realistic view of the world and my situation. I am asexual and a little person. Even if I find someone who wants to be with me without being overly intimate, there's still the social pressure that affects people. With my appearance, without a doubt, someone would be accused of inappropriate behavior if they were to date me, even though I am 18 and an adult. People might say, but you're still attracted to someone who looks that young. I can understand why they think that, which is why I don't date someone until I have been friends with them for a while first. Many friends do not want to date their friends because they don't want to ruin the friendship, so that is another challenge. Story 49. The unsolicited part is terrible because they did not have the courtesy to ensure they are contacting the correct company. Story 50. Currently, I am carrying emotional trauma. Just thinking about dating someone makes me feel sick. I come from a previous toxic relationship. Story 51. My life is a series of embarrassing events. Most recently, I had a situation so awkward that it caused a man to experience extreme secondhand embarrassment to the point where he flinches when he sees me. Story 52. I am nearing the end of a long-term relationship, and to be honest, I feel like I am just used up garbage. I doubt any man would want me, especially because of my age. Story 53. I don't like people touching me, and this has impacted all my relationships. I have difficulty hugging my mother, and being affectionate with a partner is a whole other challenge. A friends with benefits situation could be appealing, but I don't know how many people are open to that arrangement. Obviously, intimacy is important, but I prefer interactions that require minimal physical contact. My point is that I understand it's unfair to deny someone physical affection, and I don't want to do that. Story 54. Fact. Marriage is the leading cause of divorce. Some say marriage is an institution, and no one wants to be confined to an institution. Story 55. What does dating mean in this context? For example, I gave up on speed dating and online dating because I realized that I prefer to make connections in person and in a more candid way. Story 56. My wedding. There was a woman there who seemed important. She was dressed in white and really beautiful. Everyone was staring at her. She made it clear that I wasn't supposed to date anyone else. It seems to have worked out so far. Story 57. Falling in love with a man who love-bombed, devalued, and discarded me in a cruel way without a second thought. I genuinely believed we were falling in love with each other and thought he was special. Story 58. I have been single for far too long. I have had opportunities, but I lost interest, I guess. Story 59. My obsessive-compulsive disorder makes it very hard for people to love me, which I completely understand. I know that if my current relationship doesn't work out, I plan to be single for the rest of my life. Story 60. In 2016, I basically gave up on dating because I wasn't having any success. Additionally, I'm not good with small talk or meeting new people. I live in a rural community where there isn't much of a social scene. At that time, I worked a job where my hours were primarily nights and weekends, and there were not many women or people in general in the area working similar schedules, especially not in their late 30s and early to mid 40s. A few months after I decided to give up, a coworker and his wife set me up with one of her coworkers. This turned out to be the easiest and most fulfilling relationship I have ever had. We got engaged after just 5 months and got married 3 months later. It has been almost 8 years since we met, and we are still going strong. I have no regrets. Story 61. I am not giving up, but compared to last year, it is not looking good. I was doing well last year even though both options failed. I am taking a second swing at it, but I feel like I am not making progress. On the upside, though, I am saving a lot of money compared to how much I wasted last year on dating. Story 62. I am 64 years old and a widow. I have had a couple of short-term relationships, but neither man was someone I would want to commit to. I am happy to be a singleton. Story 63. I have had 5 ex-partners so far, and despite my declaration of independence and individuality at the start of each relationship, every single one tried to reshape me into some kind of manic pixie dream girl. They became frustrated when I couldn't conform to their expectations. Story 64. My name is Nicegy because I kept getting the line, "Gee, you're a really nice guy, but I just want to be friends." Story 65. I have always desired love but never truly experienced it, so I guess I gave up. I am now trying to focus on the love I have for myself and come to terms with the fact that I am alone. Story 66. I'm sure someone else wrote it, but the applications have definitely ruined dating. There are too many options available, so people do not pay much attention to who they are on a date with, if it even gets to that point. They receive instant gratification from a match, which strokes their ego enough that they do not need to commit to anything serious. Story 67. I wouldn't say I gave up on dating, but I stopped chasing it. If things happen, they happen, but pursuing it can make me desperate for a destination, causing me to lower my standards just to reach a goal. I stopped chasing because it feels like trying to catch a wild animal. Forcing it to stick with you may result in it not liking you and could ultimately hurt you when it gets away. If it comes naturally at its own pace, you won't feel insecure about it or need to force it to stay. Story 68. A lot of boys in the dating scene have commitment issues. They all want sex. Some are honest and straightforward about it, but some are manipulative, getting close to you first. It is exhausting overall. Story 69. I loved dating. I have been married for 20 years now, but when I was dating, I went on many dates and thoroughly enjoyed it. I lived in San Francisco the last time I was dating. It's a fun and romantic city for young single people with money. Story 70. Nobody wants to try or fight to make a relationship work. Any bump or argument that occurs leads them to throw their hands up in frustration and walk away. They give up even after promising to always try and never wanting to start over with someone new. I have heard those words many times, and it's always the same people who leave the fastest. It is truly disappointing. I have completely given up. Story 71. I keep getting hurt by women who don't care, and I'm convinced there's no one out there who is willing to love me for who I am. Story 72. Getting ghosted or treated as if I am just a source of money is frustrating. The women I match with on dating apps expect me to be a professional stand-up comedian in terms of charm, or they will quickly lose interest. I don't know them at all, so we need to start small. Story 73. The only attractive women who express affection for me are scammers seeking my money. I am now 50 years old. After I finalize my will, I plan to end my unfulfilling existence. Story 74. I just can't seem to find the right person. People are hard to find around here. Dating apps feel superficial and forced, and I dislike it. There isn't much to do where I could meet someone, and having the confidence to talk to strangers is difficult. I'm a shy guy. I know part of this is me making excuses, But these are genuine hurdles that make it much more difficult to start anything. I'm 24, and anyone I would be interested in this small town I call home is already with someone. Story 75. I got married at 20, and that lasted a decade. I quickly moved on to someone else who was 6 years younger. My first husband ended up wanting to explore his sexuality. My second partner hid his mental health issues from me until the death of his mother. He couldn't conceal it anymore, and things became abusive. I am done. I will take care of myself and protect myself. 2 men made promises, and 2 men belittled me. They mocked my weight and my attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. There was a lot of misogyny. Story 76. I am tired of telling guys up front exactly what they are getting into, having them ignore it all, and then getting upset when they find out I was being honest. I entered a serious relationship with a guy who knew I had borderline personality disorder, and I was detailed with my warning because I wanted him to understand. He brushed it off with statements like, "You could never be too much." One depressive episode was too much for him. He could not understand why it seemed like a flip switch, and that was that. We were done. I am done dating because I will always be perceived as too much. Story 77. Women no longer want to settle down and have children. Instead, they prefer to focus on their careers and face stress similar to that experienced in traditional male-dominated roles. It seems our society is in decline. Story 78. The downsides completely outweigh the supposed upsides. It's mostly a self-serving fantasy that is always fleeting and has fundamentally divergent goals. Men and women are not designed to spend long periods of time together. It's not the breakups I fear. It's the ones that stay together. Story 79. Having agreed before getting together that my assets were mine if we ever split up, I was dismayed to see that she took 50% of everything I have spent decades growing because that agreement wasn't in writing. Story 80. Not dating entirely, but dating applications are a joke these days. I only met someone by going to the casino and actually talking to a real person. Story 81. I am 28 years old and in a relationship, but I have made up my mind. If this one doesn't work, I am finished with romantic relationships. My previous 2 relationships were terrible, yet this one seems perfect so far. If even a man who seems so amazing turns out to be a disappointment, I will be done with love. Story 82. I don't think modern people are looking for a lifelong commitment or being loyal to one person. That's what I want, but I can't expect that to happen in this day and age. Story 83. My ex abused me and stole from me. After that, I attempted to date again but was stalked to the point where I had to obtain a restraining order. After those experiences, I realized I am better off alone. Story 84. The constant fear that every woman I ever date will be propositioned by better options than me and will inevitably choose one of them. This happened too many times to ignore. I'm tolerable in small doses, if you need someone to buy dinner or spend time with, but I'm not long-term relationship material. There's always a coworker, an ex, or just a friend who will be a better fit than I am. I gave up 5 years ago when my last relationship ended for the same reasons. In my 40 years of life, I've been in for real relationships and dated several others, but it always ended when someone better came into the picture. Story 85. I don't know any single women. I work long hours and don't want to go out. I don't care for bars. I really don't know how to approach the subject with a random woman. Plus, I'm recovering from severe depression as I type this. I'm a bit of a mess. Story 86. I had a very abusive relationship previously, and I noticed similar traits in other women, which made it difficult for me to trust anyone. It seems that only a specific type of person is drawn to me, so I decided to give up. This situation has also had a significant impact on my mental health. As much as it pains me to be alone, it feels better this way for now. Story 87. I am 41 and a single dad. Some significant issues I've faced include not respecting the boundaries I set regarding my son, my work schedule, my emotional health, and physical attraction. Most of these challenges are my fault, right? I am the single guy here, but I know my child is kind and has a huge heart. Meeting new people is a lot, and having someone leave poses too much risk for his heart. I work 4 12 to 13-hour days and spend 3 days with my son, making it hard to find time for someone who doesn't feel right. I need to prioritize my emotional health, and I'm working on that because I want to be better in order to find the right person. As for physical attraction, this may make me sound unreasonable, but it's frustrating to meet women who are so uncomfortable in their bodies that they don't want to be seen or touched. Often, these are the same women who post misleading pictures in their profiles. I'm not small, and I'm not saying you have to be perfect. I appreciate larger women, but if you're ashamed of your body, please don't misrepresent it. More than a few times, I've met women I matched with who outweighed me, and it was disappointing. I'm not attracted to someone who weighs 400 pounds. Like I said, I know I'm big at 6 feet 6 inches and 330 pounds, but it's frustrating and feels like such a cheat. Story 88. I don't care about romantic relationships as much as my peers seem to. I enjoy solitude, and I have many qualities that would make me a bad partner. Story 89. The older I got, the longer my list became. Everyone I liked was already married. After reaching a certain age, I realized I was likely not going to meet the one. Instead of continuing to search and possibly becoming angry and bitter like many single women I know, I decided to be happy on my own. What a huge relief. Several years after living that way, I met someone special, and now I'm struggling to work up the courage to show him what's inside my heart. Story 90. Getting married. I just don't have time to date anyone else anymore, and I'm pretty sure my wife would be upset if I tried. Story 91. Nothing could ever make me give up on dating. Not because I need to be in a relationship, but because finding love is worth the trouble. The only thing that will make me uninstall all dating apps is finding a person I genuinely care for and want to be with. Story 92. Being black and observing how men view and treat black women on social media is disheartening. The statistics are not in our favor. I used to be a hopeless romantic, but now I feel resigned to my fate. At the very least, I will not become a single mother. Story 93. I'm just too anxious about being hurt again. I'd love to go on dates again, but I'm kind of too scared for that, I guess. Story 94. I travel frequently for work, rarely staying in one place for a prolonged period. I have many unconventional ideas and requirements when it comes to dating, and I am too stubborn to compromise on most of them. I consider myself somewhat average in appearance, introverted, and very sensitive. I am not attracted to most men. I struggle to explain it, but I need looks, intelligence, and a connection which I rarely find all at once when talking to a man. Dating apps are frustrating, and I am too introverted to go out into the world and date. If someone comes along, that's great. If not, that's okay too. I am content with my life at the moment. I travel a lot, learn new things, and explore new places. Sometimes, I wish I could share those experiences with someone. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.